A world built on battle, a coliseum, a curious child, an imaginary friend. These are the best pair of partner commanders you haven't heard of. Pir and Toothy. Pir and Toothy are a pair of legendary creatures printed in the supplementary set Battle Bond with the keyword partner. The original printing of the keyword reads as follows: Partner, you can have two commanders if they both have partner. The first printing of this keyword was in Commander 2016, where it is intended to be used to mix and match a number of secondary commanders to create a pair that had a 4-color color identity to match the face cards of the deck. The printing for Battle Bond, however, is slightly tweaked, reading Partner with card name. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put other card name into their hand from their library and then shuffle. This means that you can only partner them with each other, but would allow players, usually themselves or a teammate, to tutor the corresponding partner to their hand while playing Two-Headed Giant. As for the creatures themselves, Pir Imaginative Rascal is 1 green and 2 colorless for a legendary creature human that partners with Toothy Imaginary Friend. It also has the added effect, if one or more counters would be put on a permanent your team controls, that many +1 of those kinds of counters are put on that permanent instead. Players often compare Pir to the enchantment Hardened Scales, but since Pir affects any kind of counters and not just +1/+1 counters, he opens additional avenues for themes and ways to play. Toothy Imaginary Friend, on the other hand, is 1 blue and 3 colorless for a legendary creature illusion that partners with Pir Imaginative Rascal. It also has the added effects: whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Toothy Imaginary Friend. And when Toothy leaves the battlefield, draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. Toothy is similar to the card Chasm Skulker, but instead of creating squid tokens when they die, they draw you a card for each +1/+1 counter when it leaves play. The minor difference in templating of this effect is incredibly powerful, because it doesn't matter whether Toothy is killed, bounced, exiled, flickered, tucked, or placed in the command zone, you'll still be able to draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. The two synergize together by Pir adding additional counters to Toothy whenever you draw a card, and Toothy becoming a big enough blocker for Pir once you've placed enough counters. The commander's color identity of Simic also gives it access to a number of other counter-centric synergies and easy access to 2 of the most important parts of Commander, ramp and card draw. One of the most powerful builds is Simic Planeswalkers, using cards like Nissa Who Shakes the World, Tamiyo Collector of Tales, Narset Parter of Veils, and of course, the legendary Jace the Mind Sculptor. Pir's ability to add additional counters shines through especially well here, since he will add additional counters not only when a Planeswalker activates a plus ability, but when they enter the battlefield. Add in a Proliferate sub-theme with cards like Karn's Bastion, Evolution Sage, and Flux Channeler, and now you're only an activation or 2 away from ultimating your Planeswalkers right after they enter. Although a powerful theme, Atraxa Super Friends with Pir and the 99 is a more competitive build, since Black and White gives access to tutoring for Planeswalkers with Ignite the Beacon and general tutors like Demonic Tutor. Toothy's addition of blue to the color identity also opens up a plethora of artifact synergies. The perfect pairing for these partners, though, is the mechanic Modular. This keyword reads Modular X. This creature enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies, you may put its +1/+1 counters on target artifact creature. With Pir out, you'll add additional counters when creatures like Arcbound Reclaimer, Arcbound Overseer, and Arcbound Ravager enter the battlefield. Then, once they die, the transfer of counters will also trigger Pir's ability, continuing to snowball into bigger and bigger creatures. Add in a Herald of Secret Streams or a Skatewing Spy and create an evasive army that can quickly overtake a game. For consistency, Whir of Invention and Fabricate can add tutoring to an already powerful deck. But without the addition of red, you'll lose out on cards like Scrap Mastery, Duretti Scrap Savant, and Hellkite Tyrant, which would make the deck much, much more powerful. Lastly, and a personal favorite, a political group hug deck can utilize Pir and Toothy as engines for alternative win cons. Use group ramp spells like Veteran Explorer, Collective Voyage, and New Frontiers to load up the battlefield with basic lands. Then drop the all-star enchantments Awakening and Upwelling to speed up mana production and allow everyone else to play on each other's turns. Once everyone's exhausted their hands, spend your additional mana using group draw spells like Folio of Fancies, Minds Aglow, and Flux to refill everyone's hands. Since you've helped the table out with ramping and card draw, it'll be easy to dissuade people from interrupting you. But just in case, Aetherize and River's Rebuke can quickly prevent others from stopping you. All the while, Pir can quickly add a mountain of counters to Toothy, who can then trigger win through Simic Ascendancy, or have Toothy leave play and draw your entire library with Laboratory Maniac or Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, to win the game. Although it takes political skill to navigate and can quickly spin a game into someone else's favor, the symmetrical nature of the deck makes it a helpful tool for balancing out uneven metas and can help everyone play at their best. Although both cards are great on their own, and their powerful synergies can create some interesting game states, their design and plays within the greater picture of Simic's color identity within Commander isn't dramatically unique. Simic has repeatedly utilized counters as a theme, which gives the pair access to a high volume of cards, but can cause a lack of direction where to take the deck. Both commanders also have low initial power and toughness, which can make them vulnerable to even the smallest of threats. Despite all of that, the pairing between a curious child and his imaginary friend make for a pair of commanders that will sure to make friends in your playgroup.